Let's get started. Start with listening, and then learn new words and practice them in sentences.
Ever wondered why politeness is so crucial in communication? It's because it fosters respect, understanding, and harmony among individuals. It's the oil that keeps the gears of human interaction running smoothly. Now imagine mastering this art in English, a language spoken by millions across the globe. Quite a powerful tool, isn't it? Today, we're going to explore the subtle art of using softer language to sound polite in English. We'll dive into the fascinating world of indirect speech and phrasing, where we learn to express our thoughts in a tactful manner. We'll then explore how tone and intonation can add a polite touch to our conversations. We'll also delve into the cultural contexts of politeness, understanding how strategies vary across English-speaking countries. Finally, we'll put our knowledge into practice through role-playing scenarios, refining our ability to communicate with elegance and respect. Today, we delve into the art of tactful communication in English. Buckle up and get ready for a fascinating journey. Imagine being at a business meeting with a potential client, John. You want to convey an important point without sounding too direct or pushy. Navigating the delicate dance of communication requires finesse and tact. One of the key strategies to achieving this is through the art of indirect speech and phrasing. But what does this mean, and how is it applied? Let's delve into it. Consider the use of modals. These are words like could, should, might, and would. Instead of saying, John, I want you to consider our proposal, you could say, John, could you consider our proposal? The latter comes off as less demanding and more respectful, allowing John to feel like he has a choice in the matter. Next, we have conditionals. These are sentences with if. Instead of saying, John, sign this contract, you could say, John, if you sign this contract, it could lead to a profitable partnership. By framing your statement as a condition, you're giving John the opportunity to weigh his options rather than feeling pressured. And then we have the use of euphemisms. Euphemisms are mild, indirect, or vague expressions used instead of those considered harsher or less pleasant. For instance, instead of saying, John, your current strategy is failing, you might say, John, your current strategy seems to be facing some challenges. The latter sounds less confrontational and more empathetic. Each of these techniques helps to soften your statements, making your conversation partner feel more comfortable. They also make you sound more polite and diplomatic. Remember, it's not about being dishonest or manipulative, but about being considerate and respectful in your communication. Let's try a quick comparison. Direct speech. John, I want you to sign this contract because your current strategy is failing. Indirect speech. John, could you consider signing this contract? It seems like your current strategy might be facing some challenges. Can you feel the difference? The indirect approach feels less aggressive, more collaborative. It's about inviting John into a conversation rather than cornering him into a decision. Notice how smoother the conversation flows when you use indirect speech and softer phrasing? This is the art of indirect speech and phrasing. Mastering these techniques will not only make your conversations more pleasant, but also more effective. Now, picture yourself at a family gathering. You want to request something from a distant relative, but you don't want to sound demanding. Tone and intonation, my friends, are the secret spices to the perfect conversational dish. They are the subtle nuances that give flavor to your words, making them sweet or sour, soft or sharp. They can take a simple request like, pass the salt, from a curt command to a polite request, all depending on how you say it. Imagine saying, I was wondering if you could pass the salt, in a high, questioning tone. It sounds like you're unsure, almost as if you're asking permission. Now, say the same sentence with a lower, more declarative tone. It suddenly takes on a more assertive feel, doesn't it? But neither of these tones feels too demanding, thanks to our friend the indirect speech. Now let's take it a step further. Picture the sentence, would you mind passing the salt? Say it with a soft, warm tone and it sounds like a gentle request. But say it with a sharp, impatient tone, and it could sound almost accusatory. Same words, different messages, all thanks to tone and intonation. And it's not just about the pitch of your voice. It's also about the rhythm, the speed, the emphasis on certain words. For example, saying, would you mind passing the salt? Puts the emphasis on the listener, making it a more personal request. On the other hand, would you mind passing the salt? Sounds like you're questioning their willingness to help. As you can see, tone and intonation are powerful tools in your linguistic arsenal. They allow you to convey a wide range of emotions and intentions, all without changing a single word. But remember, With great power comes great responsibility. Use these tools wisely and always strive for politeness and respect in your conversations. Isn't it amazing how the tone and intonation can completely change the way your message is received? Think about your friend from the UK. Even though you both speak English, there's a stark difference in how you express politeness. Politeness in language, you see, is not a one-size-fits-all concept. It's a cultural construct that varies from one English-speaking country to another. Even within these countries, there are regional and social variations. For instance, American English often values directness, while British English leans towards understatement and modesty. In Australia, you might find a more egalitarian approach where everyone is treated with the same level of casualness, regardless of their social status. Let's take a closer look at our friend from the UK. Their use of language often employs a high degree of indirectness. Instead of saying, "Give me that pen," they might opt for, "Would you mind passing me that pen?" This subtle shift in phrasing softens the request, making it feel less like a demand and more like a friendly ask. Now let's imagine you have a friend from Canada. The Canadian way of speaking English also leans towards politeness, but with a unique twist. Canadians are known for their frequent use of the word sorry, so much so that the phrase "sorry to bother you" but has become a cultural trademark. This is a form of politeness that seeks to minimize imposition on others. Then we journey to the shores of New Zealand. Here, the English language is often characterized by humility and self-deprecating humor. Rather than boasting about achievements, Kiwis might downplay their successes to avoid seeming arrogant. This is their way of showing respect and maintaining harmony in their interactions. These are just a few examples of how cultural contexts shape the way we use English to express politeness. It's essential to be aware of these differences, especially when you're communicating with people from different English-speaking countries. Adapting your language to fit the cultural context can help you build stronger relationships and avoid misunderstandings. So the next time you find yourself in a conversation with your British, Canadian, or Kiwi friend, remember to adjust your language accordingly. Remember, when it comes to politeness, cultural sensitivity is key. Finally, it's time to put all these learnings into practice. Let's dive into some role-playing scenarios to refine our ability to sound tactful and respectful in different settings. Imagine you're in a professional meeting. You want to express an opposing viewpoint. Instead of saying, "I disagree," you could gently assert, "I see where you're coming from, but have you considered..." Now picture you're at an informal gathering. You're asked about a movie you didn't enjoy. Rather than bluntly stating, "I didn't like it," you might say, "It wasn't really my cup of tea, but I can see why others might enjoy it." Lastly, consider a cross-cultural interaction. You're complimenting someone's home. Instead of saying, "Your house is nice," a more polite phrase might be, "You have such a lovely home." Remember, the goal is not to be indirect or elusive, but to communicate with warmth and respect. With practice, you can master the art of polite communication in English.
Let's learn new words and practice English at level C2. Diplomatic, showing skill in dealing with people in a way that avoids offense. Example, using a diplomatic approach, like saying, "I see your point, but..." can make your language more polite and open-minded. Connotation, an idea or feeling that a word invokes in addition to its literal meaning. Example, choosing words with a positive connotation, like opportunity instead of problem, can soften your language and convey optimism. Deference, polite submission and respect. Example, showing deference by using phrases like, "If you don't mind" or "with all due respect" can make your request sound more polite and considerate. Concession, a thing that is granted, especially in response to demands, a gesture acknowledging the other person's view. Example, making a concession such as "I understand where you're coming from" before presenting your view can soften the impact of disagreement. Tact, sensitivity in dealing with others, especially in potentially difficult situations. Example, having tact means using softer phrases like "perhaps we could consider" instead of directly opposing someone's suggestion.